Hey guys, welcome back to the Network Podcast, and we got special guest, and you know Melissa Simmons is on her way back to the studio. We love her here, and we love when she comes up and talks about her journey, answers these fire questions, and we get to the solution. We bring you the best entrepreneurs, the best podcast episodes, the best clips, the best viral reactions. Make sure you guys are following the Network Podcast, and if you have not followed me on all platforms, do that at StackPack. Now, I have more questions for Melissa because when she came in here, it was nothing but fire, nothing but heat. You understand? And that's what we do on the Network Podcast. But Melissa's still in the studio, and I want to get right back into the questions. Now, Melissa, what's something you had to sacrifice that still hurts today? Maybe it can be in business, relationships. What's something that you had to sacrifice and it still hurts today? Over to you.
Today, Stack. I think the thing that I sacrificed over the years was being able to do a lot more with my children. When I had my children, I was still that working mom, and I remember spending a lot of time away from home, and it was a sacrifice because you never get back those moments. And I think and it hurts sometimes when my children may give a memory and, my husband may have been there and I missed it. That's always something that I regret and look to, it kind of hurts. But what I've done over the years is become much more intentional about spending time with my children and making those moments. When you work hard and you're out there grinding, it takes hours, it takes days, it takes years. So sometimes you miss some of those key things, but I've learned you got to incorporate, and be very intentional about making things happen to create those memories with your family. So now I've learned to carve out time. I've learned I learned that the gift of presence means everything to your children. So now I'm a lot more intentional about doing that as I move through. As they do things, I'm showing up for them, showing up for anybody I love. So, those are some of the things that I regretted when it happened, but I've learned to become much more intentional about it so that I don't feel that way again.
Come on, Melissa. Now, what's more valuable today to you, Melissa? Is it connections or talent? Over to you.
Connections. I think connections create synergy, and certain connections when you find that person that kind of inspires you and you hear them talking. I think those things is what builds and gives power and so much energy to certain projects, and even that encouragement that you get from those connections. I think connections for me is people, right? People and relationships. I'm big on relationships. Everything I do is about a relationship. So for me, making those strategic connections, sometimes they build your business, but sometimes they build who you are. You find yourself with great friends around great people. And I think that those connections, again, that starts that momentum in your life that continues to open all kinds of doors. It opens, new relationships. So I love connections to me.
Come on, Melissa. Now, how do you balance being approachable and respected as a woman in business? Over to you.
That's something that I think comes with time. Over the years, like anybody else, I wasn't always confident. I doubted myself many a time. But I think over the years, I've learned to believe in who I am. I've learned to accept who I am and embrace it. I think too often as women, we look at ourselves and we count all the negatives. And I've learned to stop counting the negatives. I've learned to take my negatives and make them positive. What I grew up not liking, I love now. I've learned to love who I am. I've learned to love everything about myself. So when I walk in, I feel good about myself. And I think when we feel good about ourselves, when we walk into a room, walk into a space, people see that. And I think that's what confidence becomes. It becomes that thing that people see that's really from the inside out.
Come on, Melissa. She came in firing the questions up once again. Now, what kind of criticism actually help you grow in business, Melissa? Over to you.
Wow. I think I remember once when one of the superintendents I worked for, he said, you know what, Melissa, you need to improve how you come into a room and even, look at, how you present yourself. And I remember when he said that, I was, I kind of like took a double take, like, what is he trying to say? But as I watched him, I saw that he took a lot of interest in the clothes he wore, how he groomed himself, and not that I wasn't that way. But when you go to different levels, it requires a different perspective. It requires a different way you go about putting yourself together, so that when you walk into a room, somebody doesn't have, they see you coming, and nothing kind of distracts them from who you are. So I think when he gave me that advice, it hurt when he first said it, but I took that and I made sure that I had all of the pieces ready, so that when I walk into a room, I look the type, and I look the way I know I want to look, so that when they see me, they see, okay, I got a professional in front of me.
Exactly. Told y'all we had Melissa Simmons coming right back in and firing these questions up. Now, Melissa, I got another one for you. Now, how do you handle people who only support you after you win? How do you handle those individuals? Over to you.
That's a good one, because people like me, like I said before, people have ulterior motives, and sometimes what people are looking for is to link up with your light. We have a light when we're out there, and sometimes people see a light, and especially when you have a win, now they want to be your friend. I'm always, I'm not impressed when people walk up to me because they want to know who I am. I'm more impressed when they don't walk up to me, and we just naturally start having a conversation. So when I see that, there's no harm, no foul. I'm not one to ever push anybody away, or to or to or not to be respectful, and just be pleasant with a person. But I'm never one to jump in and say, hey, you're my best bud, because you see that, you feel that. I'd rather wait for that, for a real connection. I love to deal with the people that I knew from years ago, right? They're not looking for who you are today. They know who you are, and they accept you for who you are.
Come on, Melissa. Now, what motivates you when money is no longer the goal? Over to you.
Good one. For me, it's still passion. It's what I love to do. You put me in a situation, and I'm doing what I love to do. I'm not counting the dollars. I rarely count the dollars that way. And I think that's a better, for me, that's peace. Because if I keep on counting the dollars, I'll be upset with trying to make sure, everything I do is bringing something back. So I've learned not to count the money, not to count the dollars, and just do what I do. And when I do what I do, the money to flow, the money comes. So, it's not about money for me. It's not, I know money comes, but when I'm doing what I love to do, and then that produces the money, that's where I'm at.
Come
So,
on.
not counting the dollars, just the passion.
Come on, Melissa. I love that right there. Now, what's one thing that women should normalize when it comes to business? Over to you.
Oh, normalize. I think normalize. I think you size. When you walk into a room, especially women, a lot of these rooms, a lot of these C-suites, is nothing but men. We are less than 5% of the women in the C-suite, in the executive suite, are women. So when we walk into a room, a lot of times we become intimidated because we're walking into a room with a lot of men. I think we need to normalize that. I think when we walk into a room, we need to know that we are just as deserving as whoever else is in that room. We have just as much of a voice to give our opinion, and I think we need to normalize when we walk into a room that I got as much to say as the next person.
Exactly. Now, how do you protect your ideas before they're fully built, Melissa? Over to you.
I protect them. I usually bounce my ideas off with my husband. My son is really good in business, and I have a couple of friends that over the years I've learned we've developed a relationship and trust. And usually when I have a new idea, I kind of first I first give it to my husband. I ask him what he thinks. I usually then let my children look at it and say, "Hey, what do you think?" And then I kind of slowly give it to the people I've been in a relationship for a while, because I've gained a trust with them. I know they're not going to throw my stuff out there. So I pick and choose who sees my ideas, and then once I know that it's a good one, then I release it.
Co- I love that, Melissa. Look, I told y'all Melissa was coming in with some fire ass questions and she's answering them. Well, Melissa, what's your favorite part about being a boss as well, your own boss?
Oh, being your own boss. I think the beauty of it, I've done like everybody else. I've done the 9 to 5. I've paid the price. I paid. Walked the walk and did the coming home, leaving early, coming home late. I think what being your boss does is open up time. It creates it creates time in your life to do other things. You're not always having to sit at a desk. You're not always having to, punch a clock. Being able to say, one of the things in my community that I'm in, we have women that get together and they play mahjong on Tuesdays. Being your own boss, I was able to create, carve out some time to play mahjong, with my friends in my community. I think being your own boss, it just allows you to live a lot more, to create happy moments, because it's not all about work. Your life has to be fulfilled in so many different ways, and I think being your own boss creates those moments to do that.
Exactly, Melissa. Now, how do you define success without social media validation? Let's talk about that.
Social media for me is just a accent, or it allows your brand to get out there. But I think the success for me is when I see the accomplishment with my clients. When I see that, after I left, things are better. When I get that phone call, hey, what you did here, it's really made a difference for us. When I see something change for the better, that's where I take my success from. And then social media, that's that extra. Hey, people see you more. So it just gets for me is that accent of people knowing that you're out there doing something. Where for me, I take the success from when I hear what I do from the people I serve, that what I did was well. That's where I get the success from.
And my last one for you, Melissa, is what's the legacy you want your whole brand to leave as Melissa Simmons and you doing all this coaching and teaching and mentorship? What do you want the legacy to leave? Over to you.
For me, I want the legacy to leave the people I've inspired to do what I'm doing. I want to be able to say, hey, I was able to open up the door for this person. I was able to encourage this person to go into this career. For me, that's the legacy. That when people, when people look back and say, yeah, you remember that person, Melissa Simmons? She's the one that helped me get here. That's what I want my legacy to be.
Come on. You had Melissa come in. Listen to all the episodes. She has a series on the network podcast. Any last words, Melissa, before we get about this session? We appreciate you for all the gems and answering the questions on the network.
I so appreciate you, Stack. And, I think, I have my Girl Boss Up journal on Amazon. And, if anybody wants to check that out, those are some of the things that, I've done, and it's my passion project. Because one of the things that I think I want to kind of leave with everybody is continue to reinvent yourself, continue to push forward. Don't let nobody limit you. Don't let nobody tell you that's all you can do. Anything you put your mind to, you are more than capable of doing. So don't give in. Keep on pushing. Keep on moving. And hey, check me out and let's chit chat a little bit more on the podcast. on social media. So
Cool.
thank you so much.
Of course, Melissa will be coming in again. Appreciate you guys. Lego.